All right.
Good, we've got people popping on. Give it just a second to make sure we get the live stream up. Okay, guys, so we have Hamza here. He is going to be our speaker today. Hamza has a really amazing business model and understanding. He's got quite a few Airbnbs with his wife, Lisa, in the Beaufort, South Carolina market, right?
That's right.
You've done quite a few flips and worked with investors at a very, very high level and understanding the process of that. And I think the big thing is people want to start with how do you find a flip? Like, what does that look like? And so take it away. We're here to listen and take notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Allison. I think a lot of people might overthink the idea of trying to find a flip. And at the end of the day, I think it becomes, to me, it's more of like a natural habit of just trying to find a deal, right? It's like there's two types of people in this world where, the first person kind of goes into a store and just pays whatever's on the price tag. The second person goes straight to the clearance rack. So I think there's those two types of people when it comes to finding deals. Um, finding the deals is really building situational awareness or self-awareness of when you're driving, you're trying to find what looks like a good deal, whether it's tall grass or broken windows or busted door, whatever the case is. That's like the roughest deal that you can possibly find. Or you can use the resources or use technology to make your life a little bit easier. When it comes to finding a deal, I think once you find one, you can either come to a solution, whether you're going to flip it yourself or have a partner, or wholesale it to an investor, or hold it. Or at the end of the day, if none of that stuff makes sense, you can just list it. Does that make sense?
Kind of. What does wholesaling to an investor mean?
So real estate agent, right? It's essentially a commission. You find a deal, you can put it on the MLS, or you can call one of your investors and say, hey, dude, I got this deal. It's the purchase price is 200,000. My fee commission essentially is $10,000, and this is what I think this house would sell for. ARV, after repair value, would sell for. So it's a little bit more of a streamlined deal versus just paying for the seller paying the commission for you. So the buyer, the investor, is paying you a fee instead of the seller. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of like a finder's fee. So like if I found a property and I was looking, if I was like, you're going to tell us like what are some cool tactics to go and find off-market properties that maybe we want to use as flips or whatever. And I came across one that said like, hey, this is a really great price. The seller only wants 200,000, but honestly, if it went on the open market, even in the state it is, it would probably be 250.
Right.
So I could literally go to you or Blake or Adam or Anna or Amanda, whoever, and say, hey, look, like this is a really great house. I have to pass on it for reasons of I can't get the funding right now. I don't have the cash. I don't want to take on another project. But hey, look, for 210, you can essentially like take my contract on it, like a
Right.
finder's fee.
You're signing the contract. You're essentially getting it under contract for yourself. Your name's on it. And then again, you can either continue to buy it or you can find that investor
Sign
to
it.
take it on.
Cool. Okay.
Can,
Great. Sorry.
can,
That makes a lot of sense.
can I
Yeah.
ask the quickest question? So can you just leave that signing TBD on that and then assign it like later, or do you have to just find that at that point?
Wait, ask that question one more time, Eli.
Assigning it, are you always finding it at the point that you're going under contract, or can you leave that TBD? Does that make
Uh,
sense? I guess what I'm trying to ask.
I think if you're going to write the contract, I'm not a broker and I'm not a lawyer, but I would think if you're going to write the contract, you should always cover your butt and just say like Allison Greco or whatever your LLC is and or assigns, right? So like you could just leave it open-ended to always just put the and or assigns. That way you're not trying to make a
Yeah.
change contract, right?
yes. Yeah. So if I find a deal and I want to wholesale it, I'm going to put it underneath my LLC. And then once I find the investor, if I decide not to keep it and I'll wholesale it,
Uh-huh.
it's in my name. I'm just reassigning the contract and just a simple addendum change to change the name.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. I was just trying to think if you can get it resold in the matter of a week or two, but you just want to make sure you grab the deal. So,
Yeah, I mean, no, you're not wrong. I think at the end of the day, people are looking for deals all the time.
mhm.
It's hard to come by. It's kind of like finding listings. Listings are hard to find. Deals, I think, are harder to find. So people are more attracted to finding deals or buying the deals versus just going out and buying the as-is house on the MLS. The way we find deals is we have, I don't know, probably half a dozen distribution channels trying to find the deals. I think what really is super fruitful to us was two things. One was the Vulcan. Have y'all heard of Vulcan before? Vulcan 7.
I've heard of it, but we've never executed or used it.
I
Gotcha.
I do Hamza, thanks to you many years ago at KW.
Yeah, no, it's a great tool. It's a great program. All it is, I can try to pull it up. I don't know if I can screen share. Probably
You
not.
should
But
be good to share.
sorry.
You should be good to share. Yep.
Hey, Hamza,
Hi.
it's Tina. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. Hey, I wanted to tell you real quick about Vulcan because we've used it before too. So Ren Jones owns Vulcan, and the little secret is that he also owns Espresso Agent, and Vulcan and Espresso are almost exactly the same, he said, but Vulcan is more money. And the reason he never got rid of Vulcan is because he thought people would lose their minds, so he just created another one and made it cheaper. FYI, when you guys have recruits that can't afford Vulcan.
Thanks, Tina. No, that's I think I've heard of Espresso. We've tried several different platforms. And I think the Vulcan platform is easier to use and the data is just way, way better because you'll
Agreed.
pull data um,
Agreed.
and you'll just spin your wheels because they're just bad numbers or wrong email address or whatever the case is. But this is Vulcan. You can really just pull up any market and put a circle around the city and really dial down the filters, and then it'll pull all the information, whether it's emails, names, addresses, and phone numbers, and that's essentially building your list. So we'll use that. Anybody have any questions on the Vulcan, the dialer, on the data pool?
I mean, are you flip specific now? What is your like if you're here, starting your week, what are you just like, let me see, what are you doing to find one right now? Like what's your first step? Are you getting there? Like are you gonna go behind Chick-fil-A over there? Are you gonna go Pigeon Point or what's your I might have missed your I was just curious your thought process when starting your week or day or your plan for your next investments.
I look at area specific, hyper local areas like Mossy Oaks. I think Mossy Oaks is a gold mine right now. I think they have about 24 short-term rental licenses. So investors are trying to scoop them up. And there's a lot of older houses that have not been redeveloped in Mossy Oaks. And there's a decent amount of comparables that have been renovated that you can use as a comparable to whenever you find a flip. So right now, my focus is on Mossy Oaks, trying to find off-market deals there. So I'm using Vulcan and along with reiprintmail.com. These are a little tricky. So we'll use Vulcan to circle prospect Mossy Oaks, and then we'll go ahead and build that list and send that list to REI Print Mail. Have y'all ever seen these checks before? You probably got them in the mail.
Yeah, you tried to buy like 5 of my houses.
Same.
They look super real, which is kind of a concern, right? I kind of got my hands slapped with ethics and marketing and whatnot. So make sure it's in compliant with the marketing department. And you're a realtor and put your license number, put all the good things in there. That way you're not getting in trouble. But this is really good because we got a pretty high return on just the mailers themselves. And that was from reiprintmail.com.
Yeah, these are super effective. I've talked to a few investors that use this, and it really gets the phone to ring. People get it; they think, "Oh my gosh, this is like an actual check." And then the plan is, let's just role play this. Like, ring ring. Hey Hamza, it's Allison Greco. I got your check in the mail. You want to buy my property? What's up?
Hey, Allison. Yes, thanks for opening the check. This is really based off of visual inspection. So if you're interested in selling or if you're open in selling, all it takes is for me to come by the house. It's about 20 minutes just to look at the house, put eyes on the house, and then go from there if that's something you're open to.
Yeah, it is. But you're saying that you're going to buy my house for $300,000. So are you going to buy my house for $300,000?
Based off the visual inspection, just it's really based off of sticks and bricks figures. So if we think that the house is worth 300,000 based off the condition, um, the price is what it is. But if it's in rough shape, then that's something that you and I would have to talk about.
Quick question on that. I'm not scripting anymore. When you send these out, is there an algorithm that you tell REI postcards to use based upon like it's going to pull a data set, right? And then it's going to say that they think that the property is worth X. And then do you say that you're just going to blanket offer them 80% of that value, or how is it creating that number?
That is right. So REI print mail is going to ask you how much of the value do you want taken off, a percentage off the top of the fair market value. So the higher you go, let's say 90% of fair market value, the more calls you're going to get, the more prospects, the more leads you're going to get, but you're not going to find that deal, right? Because they got it checked pretty much close to fair market value, which doesn't benefit you. It might benefit you in the long run for listings.
For listings, I was going to say, so it's really a funnel for you as well. That it's like if you have the ability to purchase or show these to your investors, you are kind of getting that off market deal for them or yourself. But then on the other hand, you also get the funnel of being able to get in the door and have the connection with the client to then put them into kind of your sales funnel.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Hamza, is there a minimum on these orders with this company?
No, I guess not really. No, there's not. If you have a list of 1,000, 2,000, or 5,000, they can do it. Even a list of just 100, they can still do it for you.
We're in fellow for valuations on our database. And my wheels are turning on potentially sending those out to people that have requested cash offers, have requested CMAs, and segmenting our data down into people that have really engaged in that. So I think that would bring us more into like the hundreds range. So I'll check it out. I'll let everyone know.
Yeah. REI Print Mail is a pretty solid software platform for these mailers. They have other mailers as well, like the traditional We Buy Ugly Houses, or they got a whole bunch. But these ones, I feel like they've just brought in a lot more of a return than the other postcards as well.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. So also, go ahead. Does somebody have a question?
Oh, I was just saying it was super, super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Other things that we typically do is, we'll find deals on the MLS as well, long days on market as is houses that just haven't sold, but you're kind of paying close to fair market value for them. If they've been on the market for quite some time, we're not afraid to lowball them and see what they would take. It might be a chance. It might be yes, yeah, fine, we'll take it as is cash kind of deal. For sale by owners are sometimes good leads if they are long-term rentals as well. We came across one on Sunset Boulevard here on Ladies Island, and it was a for sale by owner, and he's had it for like 30 years. So that's another example. And then also local agents, reach out to local agents or property management companies that deal a lot with just rentals, and that's a good way of getting your foot in the door. Also asking other agents, hey, do you have anything coming up that's in rough shape? Using constant contact or email blasts for agents to kind of figure out if anybody else has anything that's offsides or off market that you can tap into.
How do you feel about investing in markets that are not your primary market?
Scary.
Me too, that's why I asked. So like what does that mean? I mean, I guess the question for us, right, is like I feel like we always stay, or you at least see people staying in their hyper local market. And there's a lot going on in these outskirt markets, like for us, for instance, right? Like you've got like the Allendale, Barnwell, like Estill markets where the prices are really low, but there are those anomaly houses that come up because there's just nothing that's been flipped, and they sell and they do really well. But then we also are so close to like the Savannah, Georgia market where it's kind of getting to the point where our market's a little bit untouchable. Like we're getting to the point that if you can't find these smoking deals, the margins just aren't there. So I guess the question for me and anybody on this call would be like, what does this look like to really start doing either investments, long-term holds, short-term rentals, and or flips? I think flips are a little scarier, but and or flips in markets that we are unfamiliar with.
So we ran across this scenario in Roundo, which is close to Walterboro. Thinking back on it, I wish we would have hired a local agent because they just know the market way better than we do. They have access to those MLSs, and they just have the network that we don't have. And with that network are resources, general contractors, roofers, inspectors. They have the whole 9 yards. So my recommendation, if you're going to tap into a different market, I would find a top producing agent or a team or at least somebody very reputable that you can kind of count on and trust with that different market.
I have to make a shameless plug here. So what you're saying is that real estate agents are worth their value?
Sure are. They know what they're doing.
Gosh.
That's again my recommendation.
Yeah.
Try to find an agent that's well versed. Other than that, you can tap into attorneys, title companies, divorce attorneys. All that whole industry there is kind of untouched. I'm not too sure about foreclosures and tax sales. We've never ran across those or had the opportunity to find deals like that.
If you were doing a flip, what would be like if I was setting a budget and I was trying to be conservative, right? Like what are like the top things that you feel like you have to do so that the house sells? Like is it flooring? Like you've got to gut the kitchen, you've got to just put granite countertops in. Like what are you seeing on that?
The kitchen and bathrooms are the biggest things. It's cosmetically speaking, right? But then from the floor, I hit hard on the crawl space. I make sure that if I have an investor who's going to flip a house, we press really hard on that investor to make sure the crawl space is tight, it's fixed, and everything's good to go along with the attic as well. Because the last thing you want to do or be called is that, hey, this is lipstick on a pig. It looks nice, it looks cool, but we want to make sure that behind the walls, underneath the flooring, or up, beyond the ceiling is all tidy. But to answer your question, Allison, yeah, bathrooms and the kitchens are probably the biggest things.
And then from a staging standpoint, I know that you guys stage most of your homes for resale. I mean, do you feel like that is something that's just imperative on these houses that have been flipped?
I think so, for sure. Staging helps tremendously. Not to say it hides any of the defects. There shouldn't be any kind of defects, but it's way better than just an empty house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then what I've been seeing, and I don't know if this is like just a kind of an open question here, but like aesthetically, I feel like we're seeing all of the flips and they're the same. And I just feel like if somebody were to come into the market and to do a flip, at least our market, on these smaller houses and just put like 10% better quality product or a little bit more of a design element in the house, I feel like they could get a much bigger return on investment. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that or sees it in their market, but it's always the same paint color, the same flooring, the same cabinetry. You know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that, on investing a little bit more to see if that return is much bigger on the back end?
I think you're going to have some investors that are going to stick with what works for them and what has worked for them. They have the same resources, the same SKU numbers for the same parts, for the same materials, same discounts for those parts as well. And it works, right? It'll ultimately sell. And to the investor's mind, if they put these things with they neutralize the whole house, the owner, the new buyer can just renovate or I guess just make it their own. It's almost like buying a brand new house, a new build, to where they neutralize everything and put very low quality, items in there with the hopes that the buyer is just going to upgrade them in the future.
That makes sense. Does anybody else have anything that they kind of want to throw out there, questions, or even kind of if you flipped or worked with flippers or worked with investors? I mean, what are you seeing with this?
I have a question for Hamza.
Yes, ma'am.
So kind of going back to what you said initially about finding the deal and then analyzing the value, what you would offer on the property. But before presenting it to an investor, how do you determine how to structure the offer to the buyer? And what tool are you using or what are you using to decide which tool to present to that buyer? Does that make sense? How are you structuring your offers? Because I know there's several different ways you can work with a homeowner to purchase that property.
Ultimately, we, MOFR make offer for immediate response. It's aggressive. It's an aggressive offer. Very little due diligence, if any. We'll add a termination fee in there as well. To protect the investor, we make the CL 100 contingent just in case that if there are termites or there is wood rot, we have some sort of escape clause. If the owner needs some time, right? Let's say we do a 2-week closing, we'll do a 2-week lease back. That way they have access to the equity. They can do whatever they want, and then they just move out. So we kind of make it a fair offer. Like, hey, this is what we're willing to offer you. Very easy transition, very easy out. But this is what we want to return as far as the price tag goes.
I like that. Give them the 2-week lease back so that they have access to their equity in their home, that they can make their next move and they're not stressed. So that's important. It makes it a win-win. But Deetra, I don't know if you heard when he said a MOFR, it's make offer for immediate response. So we can do an entire class on MOFRs if that's a business model that you guys really want to dive into. But if not, I would say Google what is a MOFR or what are MOFR ideas. But the MOFR is really like a business model on how once you get in the door, like it'll either have people having the phone ring, right? Or once you get in the door, it's kind of that quick response to get the deal going and move the needle.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Just a couple more things, Alice. I know we got to wrap it up here sooner or later. I think the hardest part for us was if you're doing the flip yourself, I would encourage you to start building a team as, inspectors, private lenders, general contractors, just to make sure you're squared away. You're not spending a whole lot of time on the flip. I think that's been our biggest challenge. And then last but not least, this doesn't have to be your money. It can be somebody else's money. It can be private lending. And there's a couple different avenues for private lending. There's a couple different structures as well. They have high interest rates. They have payments that come along with it. But ultimately, it's not your risk. It's somebody else's money that you're using. And we have resources here in South Carolina that can help as well.
How did you find, like, for me, people say like, well, I want to go and get like a hard money lender or somebody like that. I mean, not just for flips, for some of our clients as well, how did you find somebody that you felt like it wasn't predatory and you felt good about using that company? Or was it like your uncle's brother?
It was really within our network. Ross, our lender that we primarily use, he had a buddy that was in the loan business, the same, benchmark mortgage, same industry, and he got out and started doing private lending. So it was really within your network. So if you can find somebody, reach out and find somebody within your network. It's just an easier conversation to have at the end of the day with that private lender.
So let's say it's like 300 grand is the purchase price, and that it's going to cost, 50,000 for the rehab. Do they finance all that? Like, are they just paying cash for it and like giving you all the money to do the flip as well?
Yes. Yeah. So the way it's versus, you'll finance 350,000. And then depending on the ARV, the after repair value, how much you can sell it for, you might not bring anything to the table as far as a down payment goes. With that being said, they'll pay, let's say you finish the kitchen and you put your own money into the kitchen for renovations, they'll go ahead and pay you back for those renovation costs. So it's essentially 100% financing. That answer your question?
Okay, yeah. And then I have another question. As far as like listings, because I've come across this a couple times and I just don't know how to, I guess, present it right. So like I just went on a listing appointment where, let me turn my camera on. This guy, I don't think he has a lot of money. Well, I don't really know. So the house needs work. I was like, we can sell it for this price with no work, or, you know, I think you could get this much. Or if I wanted to potentially purchase it and do a little bit more to like increase of what I think I could list it for, just, you know, we would get by with the basics if he could come up with $5,000 for carpet and a little bit of paint. So how do you present that to him? Like, hey, I'd be interested in buying it. Or I know Adam, who was on this call, does the kind of that subject too, where he's keeping the house, or saying like, hey, we'll split the profit. Like if it was $299 as is, and we could sell it for $340, $350, if I'm willing to put like, have my painters do it and do all the things I do and fund that, could we split the profit over 300?
It's a creative way of doing it. Absolutely. I don't know if that would be considered like a hardcore true flip in a sense. You know, you're
Right.
investing your own money into it. And you might get paid on the back end, whether it's an increased commission structure. That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah. Or like, you know, if I put like, cause he can only afford maybe $2,000, $3,000, and we put like 8 in, and I say, oh, I'll have my painters do it, or they can get paid at closing based on that. And then let's say we're in it for 308, 299 as is, 308, and I can sell it for 350. Do you say, hey, we'll split the 42 grand? Because he's still holding the loan and he's doing all that. Like I'm not having to buy the property, but I'm like doing all the work and saying, okay, if we were just going to sell it as is to someone, why don't we put this in and then we'll split that? Like, is that legal? Can we do that?
Hamza, I think about what you're going through right now. It's really no different.
No. Well, I mean, it's a little different because she's splitting the profit with the seller with her own money into it.
But what if the property never sells? What if it doesn't sell?
You
What
would have
happens
to
then?
protect yourself from.
Yeah. Or he says, I want to move in because it looks so good. I don't want to leave.
Yeah, what happens then?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about that.
That's hard. Yeah. I mean, you would have to just make sure he's a truly committed seller and he's got somewhere to go right after.
Mm-hmm. So really just focusing on using other people's money, doing more of the flip where you're like, okay, I know it could sell for 450. I'll get it for 300, put 50 grand into it. And then they're financing everything and you're coming out with your terms at the end of the profit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question there.
Cool. Guys, this has been great. We will have this uploaded to YouTube and to our website within 48 hours. Hamza, if you want to put your information in the chat box down there, obviously all of us are here to help, and we're really excited about kind of working with Hamza and learning more about this. But we're also doing a few more series and getting some of our Wednesday mastermind set up. So we're always here if you need us for anything. And if anybody has any direct questions, I'm sure Hamza's, willing to do a group chat and make it happen.
Great stuff, ma'am.
We'll be back here next Wednesday. Melissa Enders, who's an agent on my team who absolutely crushes Facebook Marketplace for lead gen, is going to show us how she does that. And how she actually sets appointments with real people with pulses that have money that want to buy homes off Facebook Marketplace. I know it sounds crazy, but she does it. So that's what we'll have for you next week. So come back here. We'll send an email out. I do love pulses too, Eli. It's so crazy.
Thanks, everybody. Hamza, thank you so much. This is awesome. We're all about to go just throw random checks in the mail to people.
I know. I'm looking at it right now. I'm like, how many random checks can I send in the mail today?
Awesome.
You changed my life today, buddy. Thank you.
These pants changed my life.
Oh my gosh. Get off the pants. Bye.
Bye.